Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Comic Shop Adventure, my weekly excursion where I leave the homestead here at Athletic Geek HQ in search of my bounty of comics, graphic novels, action figures, collectibles, and all things in between. First things first, time to talk about what stood out from last week's bounty, and it was a lot more of the same, honestly. First things first, The Flash. It's Chapter 3 of the Flash Year 1 storyline, and it was just really, really well done with The Flash, Barry learning about his powers and learning about everything that goes into being a speedster and harnessing that power. And it's just really, really well told story. And then also you get kind of an origin of the Rogues with Captain Cold. So that's also very well written, very well done. Detective Comics, Peter Tomasi, once again, shows why he's the most underrated writer in all of comics. The conclusion of this story was just really well done, and then it also sets up for has a good ending that intrigues me enough to wonder what is going to happen with his next story arc. So that's just really got me excited to continue reading Tomasi's work on Detective Comics. And the Superman Supergirl crossover was okay. I enjoyed it. I really liked, kind of the Bendis kind of being able to write about Krypton. And while, much like Tom King on Batman, Tom King is a writer in general, I'm very up and down on Bendis. But for somebody who spent a lot of his time kind of towing the Marvel Company line and harping on DC history and harping on DC characters, you could tell through this story arc, or these couple issues, all the Superman version of it, Supergirl was not written by Bendis, but through the Superman issue, despite all of that, Bendis has some respect and has quite a bit of respect for the Superman lore. And while he might be, Marvel might have been his favorite heroes, and Marvel will probably forever be what Brian Michael Bendis is known for, through this you could tell the amount of respect and love that he had for this character and what the character has meant to the genre of comic books. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that stood out for me. I will see you when I get back here with this week's bounty. Hey everyone, I am back here at the homestead, right here at Athletic Geek HQ. Got quite the interesting bounty this week, so let's get right to it. The first things first, starting in the world of Marvel, we have Daredevil number 7, the second part of the No Devils Only God storyline. Chip Zdarsky is doing a fantastic job on Daredevil right now, really bringing the book back up. Everything he's done so far has been very good, and if you're not currently reading Daredevil, you need to be going out and buying it because it is very, very good, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing Zdarsky's story arc here. Not really a whole lot I can say without spoiling too much, because I've given some stuff away on past adventures, but I really don't want to give too much away. I want people who like this character, if they're not, to check this book out if they were lapsed because they didn't care for the previous writer or anything in between. Go check out this. If you can get the previous 6 issues too, go for it. If you can just get number 6 and 7 and jump on the new story arc, hey, do that too. That'll be great. It's just start reading it. Chip Zdarsky is, as of now, doing a phenomenal job with Daredevil. And Daredevil number 7 is the next part in that saga. From there, we go to Deadpool number 14. And again, this is kind of since I'm not reading the War of Realms, this is kind of a skim and laugh kind of book. Not super familiar with everything that's going on, because I'm currently not reading that. I'm not currently reading that miniseries or what have you, or that event book, I guess I should say. But it's Deadpool. It's still something, a fun book, and Scotty Young's a great writer. So it's still something that I can kind of appreciate a little bit of, despite the fact I'm not reading the event book that's tied in with. So I guess that speaks to how well of a writer How good of a writer? I'm a bad writer because I didn't didn't use proper grammar. How good of a writer that he is. There, Deadpool number 14. And finally, to round out the Marvel part of this bounty, we have Uncanny X-Men number 20. It's okay. It's been up and down, and this last story arc has just been kind of okay. I know they're setting up for some big X-Men events here next month. So while I'm in event overload and I'm not really a big fan of the idea of doing it, I feel like everything's just kind of getting, is going to come to a halt with this book, and then bleed into the big X-Men event book that they've got starting in July. So maybe part of the reason why I'm feeling this story is just okay. Maybe it's a little unfair because I feel like it's just not going to amount to much. That may be my own personal problem, but yeah, I mean it's been okay so far, and we'll see what issue 20 brings. Uncanny X-Men number 20. And we go to the DC side of things now. We go to Batman number 73. Yeah, continue with the Bane and the Thomas Wayne Batman. It's kind of confusing. I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy it, but there are parts of it where I'm just kind of left going, huh? Not been terrible. Story arc with Bane and everything thus far, but still, it's just there's certain aspects of it that just confuse me. Maybe I need to read it again. Maybe there are certain great books out there that just sometimes you need to read them twice, and maybe should have been reading this story arc twice. Maybe I'll appreciate it more after a second reading, much like the Prodigy book that was part of last week's bounty. I'm not sure. I like it, but there's just certain parts that are very confusing to me. So, Batman number 73. And from there, we go to Nightwing number 61, and this is the epitome of a skimming book. I'm kind of over the current Nightwing story arc without Dick being part of, in the Nightwing costume. I get what they're going for. I'm over it. I'm ready for Grayson to come back. I don't know when or if that will happen, but I keep reading this and collecting them because I feel like I'm holding out for this endpoint that I really hope happens. Because right now, I'm just not on board with this at all. But, I mean, I guess hats off to DC. As much as I've complained about Marvel being, kind of after your money, I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't mention that DC is doing this to me, and I'm falling for it. So, job well done, DC, on that one. I'm buying a book that I'm not a big fan of because I'm hoping that eventually I get what I want out of this. And, I mean, if it's selling and other people like this, hey, good on ya. Me personally, I don't like it. So, I might be holding out for an ending that'll never come. Nightwing number 61. From there, we go to Justice League number 26. And, yeah, it says The Death of Starman. Scott Snyder currently not writing this book. So, I'm very intrigued what is going on with the Justice League. I don't know if that was the end of Snyder's run, and now Tynion the Fourth is going to take over from there, or if this is going to be a Legion of Doom centric issue that he does write and has stepped into write. So I don't know. I guess I've failed as a YouTube commentator, not knowing whether or not Scott Snyder is finished with Justice League or not. But I'm a fan of Tynion the Fourth, so I guess I would assume the book would be in good hands if he is, in fact, finished with his Justice League story, especially with the, it felt like that could have been some finality with the into the last Justice League arc, and maybe a good way to hand the reins over to another writer. We will see, but I'm intrigued, and yeah, definitely gonna see where it goes from here. Justice League number 26. And here's a book that I was not able to pick up last week. It was it got released as part of last week's pull list, but I did not pick it up. It is Event Leviathan, number 1 by Brian Michael Bendis. And I know, again, I'm going to point out some of my own hypocrisy here. I've been complaining about not buying event books, but I kind of got really intrigued by this one with what they were doing in Action Comics, and it's got me intrigued enough to give it a go. It's 6 issues, maybe not quite as Superman-centric, so we're really going to see what Bendis can do with other characters. We can see if he's found that voice, because I know when other characters, when the Justice League showed up in the Superman books, I feel like Bendis struggled a little bit in finding the tone and really writing characters other than Superman. So to me, I'm intrigued, 1, by what was set up, and 2, just as somebody who has read this particular writer, seeing what he can do without kind of his fallback in the DC universe. So, yeah. I know a lot of you might have already picked this one up. Please don't spoil it for me. But this will be the first book that I read as part of this week's bounty. So, yeah, we'll see if I get burnt with this event book, much like I did with with the last one. That was with DC. I don't even remember the name of it because it was just that bad, and I did not like it. So, Event Leviathan, number 1. And finally, speaking of event books, in the DC Black Label print, we have Superman Year 1 by Frank Miller, and art by John Romita Jr. And John Romita Jr., I love how he draws Superman. Frank Miller, though. Now, I understand that everything about the DC universe, about comic books, if it was not for Frank Miller, I maybe wouldn't have fallen in love with the genre. It may not even have been around from my childhood for me to fall in love with. And I recognize that Batman Year 1 is the greatest origin story ever written. I recognize, while on a personal level, it's not, I like it, but it's not my favorite Batman story or graphic novel. The Dark Knight Returns was the basis for why Batman is the way he is, for me to have a Michael Keaton story, movie, a animated series, a Nolanverse. All these things I love about Batman, I know are in place because of Frank Miller. I mentioned that Dark Knight Returns is maybe not my most favorite Batman story, and part of the reason is kind of don't like how Superman is portrayed in that. It works, but as a Superman fan, it just kind of, it's not that it's poorly written, it's just as a Superman fan, it hurts me to see him like that. So, on one hand, I'm interested to see how Frank Miller is going to write a Superman origin story with knowing what I know about how he feels about Superman, how he feels about Superman's personality. And I don't think that Frank Miller dislikes Superman, but I know his opinions on him, so maybe it's a morbid curiosity. Maybe it's me kind of just hoping that, this will be another great origin story and maybe one of the best Superman stories ever written. Frank Miller, to me, he either shows his genius to where I, am singing his praises, or he has me throw my arms up in the air, throwing the book down on the ground and going, what the fuck is this shit? For as good as Dark Knight Returns and Year 1 and Daredevil and Sin City was, I've read The Dark Knight Strikes Again, I've read All-Star Batman, just been like, what the fuck is this garbage? I'm hoping this isn't a what the fuck is this garbage type of story. And the other thing that's got me interested is it's under the DC Black Label, which means it's a little bit darker, it's a little bit more risque. And I'm kind of wondering what they're going to do with a Superman character like that, because another one of my critiques of the DC Extended Universe is Superman's too dark. And I get that you can't have Christopher Reeve's storyline or, type of Superman in this day and age, but I feel like Superman's gone too dark, so I probably spent way too much money on a book that maybe I'm not the most optimistic about me liking. But like I said, maybe call it a morbid curiosity. Maybe it'll be the best thing I've ever read in my life. I don't know. But I bought it, and we'll find out. So, yeah. Superman Year One, #1 by Frank Miller. And that is it for me this week. Let me know what you picked up at your local comic shop in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video and like to see others like it, please subscribe. Please like this video, share it. I have videos not just from the world of comic books, but from the world of pro wrestling, video games, and all things geek culture. For more content, please go like the Facebook page at facebook.com/AthleticGeek89. There you will find every Thursday my collection comic of the week blog that is exclusive to my Facebook page. But on that, I'm out. Y'all be cool. Later.